The sun was dying over Dusty Creek Ranch, and so was everything else. Jack Morgan sat on the broken fence, watching the dust clouds roll across his land like ghosts. His hat was old so old, it had forgotten its color. His hands were rough leather, burned by decades of sun and work. But his eyes were the hardest thing about him. They had seen too much loss. The ranch spread out before him in waves of cracked earth and dead grass. Nothing grew here anymore. Not the way it used to. 5 years ago, Dusty Creek had been alive with horse-strong animals, fast runners, beautiful creatures that would catch the morning light like they were made of gold. Jack had raised them with his own 2 hands. Every single one was like a part of his heart, walking on 4 legs. Now there was just one horse left. Her name was Storm, and she was dying too. Jack could see her from where he sat. She stood near the far barn, her dark coat dusty and dull. Her ribs showed through her skin like she was wearing a skeleton underneath. She barely ate anymore. The water trough had been empty for 2 days because Jack had no money to fix the pump, and the well had run dry 3 summers back. Everything was running dry. Jack closed his eyes and tried to remember better times. He could see them clear as yesterday, the horses racing across the green fields, their manes flying like flags. He could hear the sound of their hooves on good earth. He could feel what it was like to have hope. But memories were all that was left now. Memories and one dying horse. The land had turned against him. First came the drought 7 years of no rain. Then came the bank man from the city, riding his fine horse and wearing his fine clothes, telling Jack that his debt was due. Jack didn't have the money. He had sold the cattle. He had sold the wagons. He had sold almost every horse he owned, piece by piece, to survive. All that was left was Storm. "You should have died already," Jack said to the wind, not meaning to be cruel, but knowing it was true. "I would have let you go easy." The words felt heavy in his mouth. Storm lifted her head. Even from far away, Jack could see her ears move toward his voice. She remembered him. After everything, after the hunger, after the dry years, after all the loss, she still recognized his voice. Jack stood up, his knees cracking like old wood. He was 53 years old, but felt like he was 100. He walked toward the barn, his boots kicking up clouds of dust with every step. The ranch around him felt like a graveyard. The fences were falling down. The barn roof had holes in it. There were no other animals left, no cattle, no sheep, no chickens, no goats. Just Storm. When Jack reached her, Storm tried to move closer. She was slow now, moving like her bones hurt with every step. But she pushed herself toward him, and when he put his hand on her neck, she let out a soft sound, not quite a whinny, but something that said she was glad to see him. Jack felt tears come, and he let them fall. He didn't hide them. There was no one out here to see anyway. "I can't save you, girl," he whispered. "I can't save myself either." That morning, Jack had received a letter from the bank. It was his last warning. In 30 days, the bank would take the ranch. Everything. The land his father had given him. The land his grandfather had built from nothing. Everything was going to belong to someone else. Jack had 1 month to find $5,000. It was impossible. There was no way. He had tried everything. He had written to every horse trader in the territory. He had asked every neighbor for work. No one was hiring. The whole land was broken. The whole world was running out of money and hope. One of his neighbors, a man named Carter, had come to the ranch 3 days ago. Carter owned a large ranch and was looking to buy horses cheap. He had offered Jack $200 for Storm. $200 for a horse that was worth $5,000 when she was young and strong. Jack had said no. Carter had laughed. "That horse is dying, Morgan. She won't make it past winter. Take the money. It's better than nothing." But Jack couldn't do it. He couldn't sell Storm to a man who would work her until she dropped, or worse, put her down just to save money on feed. So Jack was going to let her go himself. That was his plan. He was going to walk Storm out into the desert one last time, and he was going to shoot her clean, with respect, the way a horse should go. Not sold to strangers, not starved slowly, but quick, with dignity. He was planning to do it tomorrow. But tonight, he sat with Storm in the barn, running his old hands across her neck, remembering when she was just a foal, wild and young and full of fire. Storm had always been special. She was faster than the other horses. She was smarter. She had a heart bigger than her body. "You were born for something great," Jack told her. "I always knew it. You should have had better than this. Better than me." Outside, the wind picked up. Jack could smell rain in the distance, real rain, the first in weeks, maybe even the first in months. He looked up at the dark clouds rolling across the sky, and for a moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, but he pushed it away. Hope was dangerous out here. Hope was what got people killed. Jack lay down on the hay next to Storm, and the old horse lay down beside him, her warmth reaching across to his cold bones. Together, they waited for morning. Neither of them knew that morning would change everything. Neither of them knew that a stranger was riding toward the ranch right now, through the desert, through the wind, through the darkness. Neither of them knew that fate was still alive. It was just taking its time.
The sun rose blood red over Dusty Creek Ranch. Jack woke up in the barn with straw stuck to his face and his back screaming with pain. He was old. His body hurt everywhere now. Storm was still breathing beside him, her chest rising and falling slow and heavy. The horse had made it through the night. Jack hadn't expected that. He stood up, his joints popping like dry branches, and walked to the barn door. The air was cold this morning, colder than it should be in late autumn. Jack looked at the sky and saw more dark clouds rolling in. That rain he had smelled last night was coming closer now. Real rain. The land needed it. Maybe the land would get what it needed, even if Jack wouldn't. Jack had made his decision in the night. Today was the day. He couldn't wait any longer. Storm was suffering. He was suffering. The whole ranch was suffering, and there was no point in dragging it out anymore. He walked back to Storm and put his hand on her neck. "Come on, girl," he said quietly. "One last ride." He brought her saddle, old and cracked and barely holding together, and put it on her back. Storm didn't resist. She never resisted. That was what broke Jack's heart the most. She trusted him completely. Even now, even as she was dying, she trusted him to do what was right. Jack was leading her out of the barn when he heard it. A horse, coming fast, coming from the direction of the main road. Jack stopped and waited. Visitors were rare out here. Very rare. Most people knew better than to come to Dusty Creek Ranch. It was a place of loss and ghosts. It was a place where hope came to die. The rider appeared through the dust like a shadow, taking shape. It was a man, maybe 40 years old, wearing a long coat that had seen a lot of travel. His horse was good, not perfect, but good. Better than anything Jack had seen in years. The man rode with confidence, like he knew exactly where he was going and why. He rode right toward Jack. The stranger slowed his horse to a stop about 10 feet away. He looked at Jack with eyes that seemed to see everything. The broken ranch, the dying horse, the old man's tired face. He looked like he could see all the way into Jack's soul. "You're Jack Morgan," the stranger said. It wasn't a question. Jack felt something cold run down his spine. "Huh? How do you know my name?" The stranger got down from his horse slowly. He moved like someone who was used to being careful, used to watching his surroundings. "My name is Samuel Hayes," he said. "I'm looking for a horse. I've been looking for a very long time." "Well, you're looking at the last one I got," Jack said, his voice hard. "And she's not for sale." Samuel Hayes looked at Storm, and something changed in his face. His eyes went soft. For a moment, he just stared at the horse like she was something precious, something he'd been searching for his whole life. "That's not just any horse," Samuel said quietly. "That's Storm. That's the horse I've been hunting for 5 years. Jack's hand tightened on Storm's reins. "You don't know nothing about this horse." "I know everything about this horse," Samuel said. He reached into his coat slowly, and Jack's hand moved toward the gun at his hip. But Samuel wasn't going for a weapon. He pulled out an old newspaper clipping and handed it to Jack. Jack looked at it. It was from a newspaper from Texas, dated 5 years ago. The headline read, "Fastest Horse in the West Wins Grand Championship." Underneath was a picture of a young girl, maybe 14 years old, sitting on a beautiful dark horse. The girl was smiling. The horse was incredible, powerful, proud, alive with energy. The horse was Storm. "That's my daughter," Samuel said, his voice breaking slightly. "Emma." She rode Storm in that race. They won every single time. Every single time. He paused. Then outlaws came through our town. They took Emma. They took the horse. I've been searching ever since. Jack looked at the newspaper again. Then he looked at Storm. He could see it now. The horse in this picture and the horse standing here were the same, but time had changed her. Age had changed her. Hard living had changed her. "I found Storm 3 years ago," Jack said slowly. "A trader came through here, desperate for money. He had this horse, half-starved and beaten up. I bought her for next to nothing. Didn't know her history. Didn't know anything about her." Samuel's eyes were wet now. "I've searched every ranch from Texas to California. I've followed rumors and trails that led nowhere. I talked to everyone I could find. Someone in the last town said they saw a dark horse matching Storm's description here. That you owned her." "Storm's dying," Jack said, and the words felt like they were cutting him as he spoke them. I was going to. "Let me take her," Samuel said. "Please, let me take her home. She deserves to rest somewhere good, somewhere that remembers what she was." Jack looked at the stranger's face, and he saw the same kind of loss that he carried. He saw a man who had been broken by the world, but who had never stopped looking, who had never stopped hoping, who had traveled thousands of miles searching for something that mattered. Jack thought about Storm's choices. He thought about how this horse, even in weakness, had chosen to stay loyal to him, how she had followed him through the hardest times, how she had never given up on him, even when he had almost given up on himself. And now, Samuel was giving him a choice too. Jack could let Storm go to a good place. He could give his horse back to someone who loved her. He could be the man who chose hope instead of the man who chose endings. The rain started then. Soft at first, then harder. Real rain. The first rain in months. It fell on Jack's face, and he felt something break open inside his chest. "Take her," Jack said. "Take Storm home." Samuel stepped forward and took Storm's reins from Jack's hands. The horse went with him easily, trusting him like she had somehow known all along that this man was coming to save her. But before Samuel rode away, he turned back to Jack. "The reward for finding Storm was $50,000, he said. "When Emma disappeared, I offered it. I never got the horse back through that reward. But I'm a man of my word." He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. He handed it to Jack. Inside was money. More money than Jack had ever seen in his life. "That's not charity," Samuel said. "That's the reward. You saved my horse. You kept her alive. That's worth more than gold." And then the stranger rode away through the rain, taking with him the last horse of Dusty Creek Ranch. Jack stood alone in the downpour, holding an envelope, and for the first time in 5 years he cried, not from sadness, but from something he thought he had lost forever, that he cried from hope. Jack Morgan sat in the bank for the first time in 7 years. The banker, a thin man with cold eyes, looked at the envelope of money like it was a snake. He counted it slowly, carefully, running his fingers over each bill like he was making sure it was real. $50,000, the banker said finally. That's more than enough, Mr. Morgan." Jack couldn't speak. He just nodded. The rain was still falling outside, washing the dust from the windows. The world looked cleaner now, softer. "Your debt is paid," the banker continued. "Your land is yours again, free and clear. You own Dusty Creek Ranch without any bank holding over you." Jack walked out of the bank in a daze. The money was real. The land was his. Everything had changed in a single moment, just like that. One stranger, one horse, one choice to let go instead of holding on. He spent 3 days in town ordering supplies. New fencing, seeds, tools, animals. He ordered grain and hay. He ordered supplies for repairs to the barn and the house. For the first time in years, Jack was buying things, not because he needed them to survive, but because he was building something again. The people in town looked at him different now. The banker shook his hand. The store owners smiled at him. The blacksmith offered to fix his equipment for free. Everyone wanted to know where the money came from. Jack told them a stranger had bought his horse for a very good price. He didn't tell them the whole story. Some stories were too precious to share with everyone. Jack returned to the ranch and started working before the sun came up every morning. He fixed the barn roof. He rebuilt the fences. He cleared the dead trees and prepared the soil for planting. His hands got calluses again, but this time it felt different. This time it felt like hope. 2 weeks after Samuel had left with Storm, Jack was working in the south field when he heard horses coming. It was Samuel again, but this time he wasn't alone. With him was a young woman, maybe 18 or 19 years old now. She had Samuel's eyes, that same deep, serious look. She was riding a beautiful horse, and behind them came Storm. Storm looked different. She was stronger. Her coat was shiny and dark. She moved with energy that Jack hadn't seen in years. The horse had come back to life. The young woman got down from her horse first. She walked toward Jack with tears streaming down her face. "You're Jack Morgan," she said. "You're the man who saved Storm." Jack didn't know what to say. "You must be Emma." "I am," she said. She reached out and took his hand. Her grip was strong. "My father told me everything. He told me you had a chance to sell Storm to someone who would have hurt her. He told me you chose to let her go instead, to let her come home to me." Jack's eyes got wet. He couldn't help it. "Storm was my best friend," Emma said. "When the outlaws took me, I thought I would never see her again. I spent years thinking she was gone forever. But my father never gave up. He searched and searched. And you kept her alive." Samuel put his hand on Jack's shoulder. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Something important." Jack looked at him confused. "That $50,000, Samuel said. "It wasn't just a reward for keeping Storm alive. That wasn't the real reason I came here." Jack felt his heart slow down. "What do you mean?" Samuel took a deep breath. 5 years ago, I was one of the richest men in Texas. I had cattle ranches, horses, a big house. Everything a man could want. But when Emma was taken, when Storm was stolen, something broke in me. I realized that all my money and all my possessions meant nothing. Nothing. Because I would trade it all, every single cent, for the people and animals I loved." He paused, looking out at the ranch. "I've spent the last 5 years searching for Storm," Samuel continued. "And in those years, I've learned something. I've learned that people are good. I've learned that kindness still exists in this world. I've learned that a poor old rancher on broken land would choose to let go of the last thing he had instead of selling it to someone who would hurt it." Jack didn't understand what Samuel was saying. "I came here planning to offer you money," Samuel said, "but not as a reward. I came here planning to offer you a choice. I came here because I wanted to find a man with a good heart, a man who understands that some things are worth more than money." Samuel reached in his coat again, and Jack tensed. But instead of money, Samuel pulled out papers. "I have 3 ranches in Texas," Samuel said. "Good land, watered land, land that's alive and green. I can't run all 3 anymore. I'm getting older. I want to focus on raising horses again. Good horses, strong horses. I want to do it with someone who understands what horses really mean." He handed the papers to Jack. "These are the deeds to one of my ranches," Samuel said. "The best one. I'm offering it to you as a partner. Not a gift. A partnership. We rebuild together. We raise horses together. We do something that matters together." Jack looked at the papers. He couldn't read all the words. His hand was shaking too much. "Why?" Jack asked simply. "Why would you do this?" "Because you taught me something," Samuel said. "You taught me that a man who has lost everything and still chooses kindness, that man deserves a second chance. That man deserves more than a broken ranch and a dying horse. That man deserves to live." Emma came and stood beside her father. "And because we want you to be part of our family," she said. "Because Storm brought us together. Because some choices are so good and so true that they change everything forever." Jack looked at Storm. The horse walked toward him and pressed her head against his chest, and Jack put his arms around her neck and wept. He had let go thinking he was losing everything, but he had actually found everything. The rain fell around them, washing the old dust away, making room for something new to grow. 3 months had passed since Jack Morgan left Dusty Creek Ranch. The old ranch was quiet now, quiet and empty, but it wasn't sad anymore. A young family from back east had bought it, a couple with 2 children who wanted to start over. They were good people. They promised to take care of the land. Jack believed them. Now, Jack stood on the edge of Samuel's ranch in Texas, and he felt like he was dreaming. The land stretched out in all directions, green, alive, watered by rivers that never dried up. The grass was thick and full. The sky was big and blue. There were barns that didn't have holes in the roof. There were corrals made of strong wood. There were fences that didn't fall down. There were fields that looked like they had never known hunger. And there were horses, 30 of them, all healthy, all strong, all beautiful. Jack couldn't believe it was real. Samuel had given him a small house on the edge of the ranch. Nothing fancy, but clean and solid. It had a porch where he could sit and watch the sunset. It had a kitchen where he could cook real meals. It had a bed with clean sheets. Every night, Jack would lie in that bed and wonder if he was going to wake up back at Dusty Creek, broken and alone. But he never did. Every morning was real. "You're doing good work," Samuel said one afternoon, finding Jack repairing a section of fence. Jack had been working there since sunrise. His back hurt. His hands were blistered. But he was happy. "This is honest work," Jack said. "I know how to do this." "That's not what I mean," Samuel said. He came and stood beside Jack, looking out at the horses grazing in the distance. "I mean you're doing good work with yourself. You're learning to live again." Jack didn't know how to respond to that. It was true, but it felt too big to say out loud. "I know this is different," Samuel continued. "A month ago, you were alone. Now you're part of something, part of family. That's hard for a man to accept." Jack drove another nail into the fence. The sound echoed across the empty field. "I don't know if I deserve this," he said quietly. "Why would you say that?" Samuel asked. "Because I was ready to die," Jack said. The words came out hard and honest. "I was ready to give up. I was on a shoot storm just to end the suffering. I didn't believe in anything anymore. I didn't believe in hope. And then you came, and you gave me everything." Samuel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I was ready to die, too, in a different way. When Emma was taken, I wanted to die. I wanted to stop living because living without hope was too painful. But I didn't die. I kept moving. I kept searching. And that search taught me that people are good. People like you." Jack looked at Samuel. He could see the scars on this man's face. Not physical scars, but the deep marks that loss leaves on a person's heart. "You know what the real reason is?" Samuel asked. "The real reason I brought you here?" Jack shook his head. "Because I need you," Samuel said simply. "Not because you need me. I need you because you understand something that most people don't understand. You understand what it means to lose everything. You understand what it means to keep going anyway. And I need that. Emma needs that. We need to be around someone who knows what real strength looks like." That night, Emma came to Jack's house with dinner. She was becoming a good friend. She would sit on his porch and talk about horses, how to train them, how to read their moods, how to build trust with them. Emma knew horses the way some people know music. She could read them like books. "I have something to show you," Emma said one evening after dinner. She led Jack to one of the big barns. Inside, there was a horse, a beautiful stallion, maybe 3 years old, with a black coat that shined like polished stone. "This is Storm's son," Emma said. "His father is a champion racehorse. His mother is Storm. This horse should be the fastest, strongest, most beautiful horse in all of Texas." Jack looked at the young stallion. The horse had Storm's eyes, intelligent and kind. "What are you going to do with him?" Jack asked. "I'm going to train him," Emma said. "And I want you to help me. I want you to teach me how to do it the right way. The way that respects the horse. The way that doesn't break their spirit." Jack felt something warm move through his chest. "Why would you trust me with that?" "Because you know," Emma said simply. "You know that the most important thing isn't how fast a horse can run or how much money it can win. The most important thing is that the horse is alive and happy and free." For the next 2 months, Jack and Emma worked together. Every day, they spent hours with the young stallion. Jack taught Emma everything he knew about horses, how to read their body language, how to build trust slowly, how to never force them but always guide them. Emma taught Jack about modern training methods, about nutrition, about how to keep horses healthy and strong. And something beautiful happened. The young stallion became not just a fast horse, but a happy horse. He ran because he wanted to run, not because he was forced. He trusted Jack and Emma completely. He would follow them around the barn like a puppy. He would nuzzle Jack's chest when Jack was sad. One afternoon, Samuel came and watched Jack working with the stallion. The old rancher didn't say anything. He just stood at the fence and watched. When Jack finished, Samuel came over with tears in his eyes. "You're not the same man who came here 3 months ago," Samuel said. "No," Jack agreed. "I'm not." "You're alive again," Samuel said. "Really alive. Not just breathing, but alive." Jack thought about that. He thought about Dusty Creek Ranch and the broken man he had been. He thought about Storm and how one horse had brought 2 strangers together. He thought about how one choice, to let go instead of hold on, had changed everything. "I learned something," Jack said slowly. "I learned that sometimes the only way to get your life back is to give away the last thing you have. Sometimes you have to let go before you can really hold on to something good." Samuel put his hand on Jack's shoulder. "That's wisdom," he said. "Hard-earned wisdom." That night, as Jack sat on his porch watching the sunset paint the sky orange and red, he realized something. He was happy. Not the kind of happiness that comes from not having problems, but real happiness, the kind that comes from knowing you're part of something that matters, the kind that comes from doing work that has meaning, the kind that comes from people who believe in you and need you. Jack had lost everything and found everything, and it had all started with a choice to let a horse go. 1 year had passed since Jack Morgan arrived at Samuel's ranch in Texas. The day was clear and bright. Hundreds of people had gathered at the racing grounds outside Dallas. There were fancy carriages, well-dressed people, reporters with cameras, and wealthy men who had come to see the most important horse race of the year. Jack stood in the stable area, holding the reins of Storm's son. The young stallion was beautiful, muscles rippling under his black coat, eyes calm and intelligent. His name was Legacy. Emma had chosen the name because, as she said, he carries the strength of his mother forward into the world. "You nervous?" Emma asked, coming to stand beside Jack. Jack looked at the young woman. She was wearing a riding outfit made of fine cloth, and her hair was tied back professionally. She looked like a champion. She looked like someone who belonged in this world of wealth and power. "I'm terrified," Jack admitted. Emma smiled and put her hand on his shoulder. "Good," she said. "That means you understand what this means." The race wasn't just about money or winning. It was about something deeper. It was about proving that a horse, trained with kindness and respect, could be just as fast and strong as horses trained with force and cruelty. It was about proving that Jack's way of working with horses, the old way, the careful way, the loyal way, was just as good as any modern method. 3 weeks ago, Legacy had been challenged by a rich man named Victor Thorne. Thorne owned the fastest racehorse in Texas, a stallion named Darkness. Thorne was famous for training his horses hard. He used whips and spurs. He pushed them until they were too tired to fight back. His horses were fast, but they were afraid. They ran because they had to, not because they wanted to. Thorne had heard about Legacy and had laughed. "A horse trained by an old broken man and a young girl," he had said publicly. "That horse will lose before it even reaches the starting line." But Samuel had accepted the challenge, and now here they were. Jack led Legacy to the racing track. The crowd was enormous. People were shouting and cheering. Betting was happening everywhere. Jack could see reporters writing in notebooks, trying to capture the story of this unknown horse and the unknown rider. Emma rode Legacy to the starting line. She looked small on the big horse, but she sat tall and confident. Jack could see that she was calm. She had trained with Legacy every single day for a year. She knew him better than she knew herself. On the other side of the track, Victor Thorne rode Darkness. The horse was big and powerful, but Jack could see the fear in its eyes. Jack could see the way Darkness kept trying to pull away from Thorne, trying to escape. The horse ran because it was terrified, not because it loved running. The official raised his hand. The crowd went silent. Jack thought about his journey. He thought about Dusty Creek Ranch and the dust and the dying land. He thought about the moment he had held the rifle, ready to end Storm's life. He thought about the choice he had made, to let go instead of hold on. All of that had led to this moment. The official's hand came down. The two horses exploded forward. For the first half of the race, darkness led. The crowd roared. Victor Thorne was laughing, his face showing victory before the race was even finished. Jack's heart sank. Maybe they weren't ready. Maybe Legacy wasn't fast enough. Maybe. But then something changed. Legacy moved forward. Not with desperation, not with fear, but with joy. The horse loved running. Emma had trained him to love it. Legacy ran not because he had to, but because he wanted to fly, because he wanted to be free. Jack watched as Legacy came alongside darkness. The two horses were equal now, neck and neck, their hooves pounding the earth like thunder. Then Legacy pulled ahead. The crowd exploded. People were screaming and jumping. Reporters were shouting. But Jack could only see the horses. He could only see darkness struggling, tired and afraid, while Legacy ran like lightning, powerful and free and alive. Legacy crossed the finish line 10 lengths ahead of darkness. The crowd rushed toward the track, but Emma held Legacy steady. She rode him slowly, cooling him down, letting his breathing return to normal. She was smiling, and tears were streaming down her face. Jack walked onto the track, and Legacy came to him immediately. The stallion pressed his head against Jack's chest, and Jack wrapped his arms around the horse's neck and held him tight. "You did it," Jack whispered. "You did it, boy." Samuel came out with Emma, and they stood together, the old rancher, the young woman, the old man, and the magnificent horse. The reporters surrounded them, asking questions, but Samuel held up his hand. "I want to tell you the real story of this horse," Samuel said loudly, so everyone could hear. "This horse's mother was stolen from my daughter 5 years ago. I spent years searching for her, and I found her on a broken ranch, dying, ready to give up on life." Samuel pointed to Jack. "This man," Samuel continued, "saved my horse when he could have let her go. This man knew that kindness was more powerful than cruelty. This man proved today that horses trained with love and respect are stronger than horses trained with fear." The crowd was silent now, listening. "My daughter and this man trained Legacy together," Samuel said. "And Legacy ran faster than any horse trained with whips and pain. That tells you something important. It tells you that the old ways, the ways of loyalty, respect, and kindness, those ways are still powerful. Those ways still matter." Victor Thorne was riding away on darkness, his face red with anger and shame. But Jack barely noticed. He was looking at Legacy, at Emma, at Samuel, and he was thinking about how far he had come. That night, there was a celebration at Samuel's ranch. People came from miles around. There was music and food and dancing. Jack sat on the porch of his house, watching the party, and Emma came and sat beside him. "You changed my life," Emma said simply. Jack looked at her. "You changed mine," he replied. "I mean it," Emma said. "You taught me that strength isn't about being cruel or dominant. You taught me that the most powerful thing in the world is loyalty. A horse's loyalty to a human's loyalty to a horse. You taught me that love is stronger than fear." Jack had no words. He had never been good with words. "My father wants to know if you'll stay," Emma continued. "Permanently. He wants you to help him build something great. Something that will last generations. Something that will show the world that horses matter. That loyalty matters. That second chances matter." Jack looked out at the land, green and alive and full of possibility. He thought about the man he had been. Broken. Alone. Ready to die. Now he was alive. Really alive. "Tell your father yes," Jack said quietly. "Tell him I'm staying." Emma hugged him, and Jack held her like she was his own daughter. Because in a way, she was. They had created something together that was bigger than both of them. They had created a horse that represented something true and good in the world. Later, as the party was ending and the stars came out, Jack walked to the barn where Legacy was resting. The stallion heard him coming and lifted his head. Jack opened the stall and ran his hands along the horse's neck, feeling the warmth and life flowing through him. "You were worth waiting for," Jack whispered. "All of it. All the pain, all the loss, it was worth waiting for you. And in the darkness of the barn, with just the horse and the stars as witnesses, Jack Morgan finally understood the deepest truth. He wasn't just training horses anymore. He was building a legacy. He was showing the world that broken men could be healed, that dying horses could come back to life, that loyalty could change destiny, that even the weakest moment could become legendary, that second chances were real, that loyalty changes everything, that silence speaks louder than words, that horses matter. The end.